to Worth the Effort Meditation with conversation leader Tiffany Gaudette. All Worth the Effort sessions are an opportunity for athletes and coaches to meet up and discuss techniques and tools that will help them in training and gameplay. In this session, Tiffany Gaudette, OCPSA's Ontario Development Program coach and competitive thrower in para-athletics, leads the conversation by discussing mindfulness techniques that can help athletes on and off the field of play. Thank you and enjoy listening.
Thank you all for joining tonight's Worth the Epic topic of meditation. I am Amanda Fader. I'm executive director with Ontario CP Sports, and I have the honor of introducing Tiffany Gaudette, who is leading the conversation. So I first met Tiff through her involvement as a competitive thrower, as an athlete. Para-athletics is one of the very many para sports that Tiffany engages in and or coaches. She leads numerous initiatives for the Cruisers, which is our home club, and truthfully, single-handedly kickstarted their Boccia program. So she's most recently been named our provincial development team staff coach, and she's an incredible asset to our program. And it's my very honor to introduce you to her if you don't already know her. So take it away, Tiff.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. So I'm really excited to be with you all tonight to talk about meditation. And I'm going to lump that as mindfulness and meditation and how I utilize it in sport. Meditation and mindfulness is something that I've actually been practicing for about, I would say, 15 years now. It's really had a positive impact in my life. So before I get into my whole conversation, and it'll give you a little bit of a better understanding of who I am as a person, as a coach, and as an athlete. So a little bit about me is that I was a child and youth worker who specializes in adolescent mental health treatment. I worked frontline directly with youth to help them meet their treatment goals and teach them new coping skills to add into their toolbox of life, and delivered therapeutic programming while they were in our care. I acquired my spinal cord injury in connection to a motor vehicle accident while traveling with work. After my injury, I spent 2 years with the sole focus of my physical therapy and pain control until I hit a decline in my mobility. And I knew that something had to change at that point, that focusing on physical therapy and moving forward with certain goals was not going to be attainable anymore. This is when I chose to become involved in para sports and playing multiple para sports to try to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And after a suggestion from a friend from SCI, or spinal cord injury rehabilitation, I got involved in wheelchair racing. Para sports has been a major part in my recovery and has helped me find community and continues to help build my confidence and maintain my mental and physical health. My sport of choice is para-athletics. As Amanda said, I do discus, shot put, and javelin, which I throw for Ontario at a national level. And I've also had the experience of traveling to Germany with our national team to be classified for international ranking and compete. I began coaching Boccia through my connection to OCPSA, as Amanda said, through being involved with their training camp for athletics. And when I was asked if I was interested in a Boccia coaching course, I did not hesitate. It was partially a throwing sport, and as you know, I'm a thrower, so that's pretty awesome. And it was actually the first para sport that I was introduced to in my 6-month stay in rehabilitation at Lyndhurst by a therapeutic recreational therapist. It just felt like a good fit in my life, and it came at a moment that I really needed other things to focus on. So that's when I began my coaching with recreation, and I've been coaching for about 4 years now, and I've completed my NCCP coaching, which allows me to coach up to a provincial level. So before we get into the discussion again, I'm going to give you a definition of what mindfulness is and what meditation is, because there is a difference between the two. So mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not be overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. And then on the other side, meditation, it's about training and awareness and getting a healthy sense of perspective You're not going to try to turn off your thoughts or feelings. You're learning to observe them without judgment. And eventually you may start to better understand them as well. Both of these go hand in hand in helping develop and connect the mind and body and develop self-awareness. And as a youth worker, that is one thing that I learned in my personal life with the youth that I was working with, is that self-awareness is a really, really important part to self-confidence, and as well for you to be able to obtain your goals. And that can be even like body awareness as well. So some of the benefits of practicing mindfulness is that it can help emotional regulation, your mental health, body and self-awareness, pain control, physical health, and helps refocus your mind on living in the present moment. So that's not thinking too far into the past, not too far into the future, living right here, right now. Some ways of practicing mindfulness are guided meditation, breathing exercises, relaxing to nature or instrumental sounds, visualization, body scans, drawing and listening to music, using a journal with guided questions that make you reflect on scenarios or your emotions, writing a daily journal or log while you're training, mindfulness eating, eating slow and enjoying the food that you are eating, yoga, guided gentle stretching and Tai Chi, mantras and positive self-talk. And those are just some of the short list of things that you can do. And not everything is going to work for anybody. So for instance, when I was doing this pain group through University Health Networks, they tried laughing yoga with me. I'm a very introvert person and serious person. So laughing yoga, for instance, just really did not work for me. I put a solid effort into 6 sessions, but it wasn't my thing. So that's something I want you to think of when we're going through all this stuff, is knowing that some things may not fit for you. But if you give it an honest effort and it doesn't, there's so many other things that you can do to still practice. So why should we practice these skills in sports? When in competition, athletes are dealing with a lot of internal and external stimuli. There's a lot going on. There may be crowds cheering, other events running in the background, a coach at the sidelines, friends and family may be there watching, which may heighten anxiety. Maybe the competition is broadcasting live on social media or television. You may feel pressure from being just in a competition because that can be stressful sometimes. It may be a new environment. Did you sleep well? Did you travel well? Did you eat well? Is your chronic pain managed if you have chronic pain? And do you have high or low energy? What is going on in your personal life? Those are all different factors that an athlete has when going into competition. So in competitive sports, it's imperative for athletes to be at the top of their mental and physical health so that they are able to perform at their best. Practicing mindfulness can help athletes own their thoughts and feelings by acknowledging what is in their control and out of their control in sport and in life, and how to see the bigger picture while living in the present moment and focusing on what you can control. It can also help an athlete with when emotions are running high or low to calm their bodies and refocus them into the present moment and what they are trying to accomplish. Body awareness can help an athlete with visualization, know if they are training too much or too little, know what they need to do for their bodies, like rest, eat, stretch, breathe. And also within body awareness, it can help you when you're visualizing in that to do the steps and the motions that you would in your head and sort of gain those rituals of, like, I'm going to give you an example for my discus or my throws. When I'm there, I can be laughing, joking, but then when it comes to my throws, my face gloss is over. I say a mantra to myself. I get in the zone. I focus on that discus. I know every part of my body, what is moving. And if I don't throw so well, I know what part of it went wrong. So that's just an example of the body awareness and how that can help. It helps an athlete also develop a positive relationship with themselves, their sports, health, and nutrition. A sports psychologist is one way that you can help, but as coaches and athletes, there's things that you can implement into your sessions or trainings that you can also help yourself or your athletes. The earlier athletes begin to learn these skills, the more beneficial it can be as our neuroplasticity. So that's our brain connections. It slows down as we age, but once we learn these skills, they are there forever. So when it comes to helping with emotional regulation, at times it can be difficult for anyone to control emotions. But for an athlete, this is so important, especially when they are competitively playing. When emotions are high or low, it can affect an athlete's ability to perform as they would without these stressors. By using any of the ways to practice mindfulness I already discussed, including meditation, it can help an athlete when a stressful or exciting situation arises. If an athlete is distracted by a referee's call, per se, and unable to come back into the end, reminding them of their strategies and focusing on that present moment, their goal, and what they can control may be enough to ground them and bring them back into the game. I usually like to ask my athletes before a competition what I can do for them if they find they are getting in their heads or overly excited or low or any sort of emotion that you may have as an athlete. This is when the body and self-awareness connect, so an athlete can learn or know what their needs are so that they can begin to emotionally regulate. Overexcitement can be good. If there's too much, it can also cause an athlete to crash. So, you're getting really excited, you're all built up, and then that energy just goes down. It's like drinking a whole bunch of coffee, and then afterwards, your energy starts to deplete. This is also good practice as it can help an athlete to cope with their day-to-day life and not just the pressures of competition. And those are two things that go hand in hand, because sometimes it can be really hard as an athlete to go into a competition and take that hat off that, of your personal life. You may have other things that are going on that may come into play there. So before I move on, I've been using the word practice a lot. The reason why I use the word practice is because mindfulness is a practice. It's not something that, you go right into it and it's easy. It's something that you work on gradually and you practice every day. As I said, I've been doing this for 15 years of practicing different things. I'm still learning every day. So that's why I say it's a practice. And as well, you may have a few steps forward and a few steps back. So now I'm going to move on to mental health. So CAMH campaigns have let us know that everyone in their life will experience some sort of mental health in their life, be it themselves or someone close. When I say mental health, I want to make the distinction between mental health, which is a person's psychological and emotional well-being, and mental illness, which is separate, which pertains to a person's trauma or biology causing behavioral changes. So right now, in this moment, I'm talking about mental health. So keeping your mind healthy. Mindfulness and meditation is a way to build confidence through doing meditation, mantras, and positive self-talk. You feel how you think and you achieve what you believe. So I don't know how many of you have seen that Facebook video of the little girl with her father, and her father is getting her to talk into a mirror so that she's talking herself up, so that she is saying she's beautiful, that she can do things. And things like that are very empowering because it allows you as a person to look at yourself in some of your rawest moments and to tell yourself that you are pretty great. And I think that is one thing that a lot of us tend to not do, is we can be very hard on ourselves, especially as an athlete. I know as an athlete, I am very hard on myself, but doing things like that can help build the self-confidence so that you are more confident with yourself and able to walk into a competition with that confidence. So I talked about body awareness and self-awareness as well, the mental and physical awareness. So a journal can help an athlete track multiple factors that can help them get a bigger picture of what is going on in their life and what may be hindering or excelling their training or goals. In plateaus of training, this sort of tracking can help an athlete be more self-aware. If they're comfortable with their coach, trainer, caregiver, or anything, they can share that journal with them. So then maybe they have insights into what is going on. Some of the things that I suggest to my athletes are keeping a sleep log, what they eat, notes about their training, energy level, how is travel, how they did in competitions, any medical factors, how is their pain management that day if they have chronic pain, how they are doing emotionally. Goal tracking is a really big one, and making sure that those goals are SMART goals, which means that they're obtainable. So you do it in little small steps and you work your way up. I also get them to track their moods, like before or after competitions and their feelings, because that can be pretty important too. Because if you're feeling a certain way going in and you perform a certain way, it gives you a better insight into maybe what you need to work on for those moments that you're more successful. You can also track whatever you want or whatever ideas like a coach may come up with. It's one of those things, it's finding what works best for you, because mindfulness and meditation is not a cookie cutter thing. It's different for everyone. So when it comes to body scans, I really like body scans. This is what has probably helped me the most within my athletics career. And what body scans are is being able to pinpoint in your body and what it is doing at certain times. So like, I'm aware if a part of my body is a little tighter, it needs to be loose. I'm aware, like, if I'm throwing my discus and my hands turned up or over. When you do meditations that are body scans that are getting you to be body aware, it can be very beneficial for helping you with your skills. And then it also links back to the journaling of logging it to see maybe what your patterns are. When implementing this in your life, it was suggested to me by a lot of the different professionals that I worked with and throughout my education as well, that you start slow because it's a practice, which means there is both forward movement and backward movement. I try to keep this in mind when running practices. It becomes part of the athlete routine in the gym. I do level breathing exercises to start and slowly integrate more meditations each week that are maybe a little bit more time. Maybe it has a little more things that you're doing within it. Starting with breathing, I find, helps them learn that there is something that they can focus on when guided meditation is introduced. Because guided meditations can be difficult for anybody to start, especially if it's a 3 to 5 minute one. So if you can get them focusing on their breathing first, this can actually be pretty beneficial in the end to getting them to sort of be able to move into more progressive meditations. The more skilled that athletes get, you can introduce longer or different guided breathing and meditation exercises. There are some guided breathing and meditation exercises that are very specific for anxiety, body scan, self-awareness. If you are very hard on yourself, there's so many different things out there on YouTube. So if one thing doesn't work, there's a lot of different things in the toolbox that you can go out and find to help. It is really important to let your athletes know, or if you are an athlete, that when you're doing guided meditation, again, it's a practice. It's like doing your drills. If your attention wanders, just encourage yourself or encourage your athlete to do their best on coming back and refocusing on the meditation as much as possible. And the more you practice, the better you will get. Another resource other than YouTube that some national sport organizations have put out there is Headspace, which is an app. I believe it may be partially paid and some of it free, but on YouTube, they do have a large library of different guided meditations. So when it comes to pain control, chronic pain for some often comes hand in hand with having a disability, as we know. Large local networks like UHN, who is affiliated with U of T, and CAMH have been researching and integrating mindfulness and meditation practices and programs for their patients. And this is actually a program that I've gone through twice, and I absolutely loved it. Research shows that it can benefit chronic pain patients by helping them with physical sensations, emotional responses to those sensations, and social effects of those experiences. To focus on what they can control in the moment, to know their need and what they are trying to accomplish. Do they need to stop? Do you need to rest? Slow down? Can you pick up your speed to maybe power through it? Or do you need to full stop? And also, if you just need to switch something up in general. Something like this, I can give a little bit of an example of when I first started athletics with my spinal cord injury. It is incomplete. So I get a lot of pain and neurologically and just through sitting in that on certain surfaces. And it literally took me 2 years of my athletics career to finally figure out and tweak my equipment and different things to get to a point where I was able to finally be comfortable with all my different events that I was in. And that was through very much my body awareness and knowing what my physical needs were and my emotional needs to get through that pain. If you know your body and its responses to certain movements or activities, you may be able to also better stop yourself before you have an injury, a strain, getting overtired, or causing heightened pain. An athlete will be better able to let their team know what is going on, and if they need rest, reposition, slow down, do less before an activity, or not to do specific movements. So this is also, I'm going to relate this right back to the journaling. This is when that journaling is really good, again, to write all those things down, because it can be beneficial throughout these different things. So when it comes to physical health, better awareness of your body's needs and wants, or if you're sick, if you're tired, if you're sore, if you're high energy, if you're hungry, or if you're too full, those are really good benefits that mindfulness can provide once you get to know yourself more. Mindfulness eating can help you be more aware of nutrition, what you like, what you do not like, what you are eating, and if what you are eating is satisfying and nourishing your body. Are your energy levels high or are they low? What are you eating when you are feeling either? And I'll go back to say this is a really good time for your journal as well, if you're interested in that. Gentle stretching and movements like yoga, guided gentle stretching, and Tai Chi, as well as other movement programs, are really beneficial. If your athlete is more body aware, it can help them benefit them by knowing their needs before competition, like where and how much they need to stretch before competing or warm up. And my last little part is, can mindfulness and meditation benefit us as a coach? I believe the answer to this is yes. I find myself as a coach in situations, I have been able to use mindfulness to reflect before responding to a situation and ensure that I am able to respond from a calm and rational mind. It helps refocus mine on living in the present moment. So that is something that is awesome for everybody all around. And if you model it for an athlete, they may become more interested in utilizing that same skill because they can see the benefits of how it has helped you. So that is my little spiel on mindfulness and meditation. So I guess we can open up for if anybody has any questions.
But one thing I use is I do use regular scheduled notifications on my phone and on my smart speaker to stop and think about where I am and take 5 to 10 breaths just to ground myself throughout the day. And I sort of know what time of day and what types of transition give me the most trouble. So I do like that. And I also like, if you look up 3 MBR or 3-minute breaks, they're also a good cognitive activity just to actually sort of figure out where you are and how to ground yourself.
Yeah, grounding is actually one thing that I didn't mention, and that's a really good thing to actually bring up, because that's also another one of those tools that to put in that mindfulness toolbox. And for those of you that don't know what grounding is, it's like bringing yourself back to that present moment. So for instance, I know if I get upset or something cold on my face, or even like just putting my hands in water will ground me.
Something that was surprising for me as an athlete is I never really considered yoga that beneficial until I started playing boccia. It really helps me focus in on my practices. I've actually learned to like to even run some classes. The things I used to do as a kid, I always thought yoga was for, those people, but yoga can be a useful tool for everyone. It doesn't matter your ability level. There's all kinds of different sitting yoga that you can find on the internet, and much of it is hugely beneficial. Yoga is something I've been using not just for boccia and for my other sports, but it's been something I've been using to keep myself grounded during COVID and having to stay home and not being able to do as much. If I take the half an hour a day to just do a little yoga, I find it really helps me stay in a better mood. So
it's a really good activity for connecting the brain and the body as well, because you're doing some of that mindfulness stuff, like while you're stretching, breathing, and thinking.
How can we use these grounding techniques when we're on court at a competition to help our gameplay?
So when it comes my turn for a shot, I try to focus in on, I think about what it is I want to do, and then I close my eyes and I picture myself doing that shot several times, and then I make the shot. And more often than not, that works for me. And I just have to remember to do it all the time, not just when it's like when the game's on the line or when it's in a super important shot. I think it would make me a better athlete if I could do it, remember to do it in all situations.
Could I say something real quick?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
this is
Yeah, so
everybody's conversation.
when I'm first showed the paddle by the ref when it's my shot, so I look at what's obviously on the playing field. Like, well, actually, first before that, I'll actually say to myself, "It's okay, we got this, we can do it." Like, I'll encourage myself in my head, like to make it so I know that I can do it, and then I'll plan exactly what I want to do, and then I try to execute it.
I don't know if this is really specifically on topic, but one thing I've talked about a lot with my sports psychologist is really staying focused on what you want to do. Don't think about the negative things that might happen. Only focus on the positive things. Like, for example, in boccia, if you're trying to move the blue ball out of the way because you're red, you want to think about just hitting that ball. Don't think about the negative things that can happen, because quite often, if the negative thoughts are in your head, your body's going to do that.
Yeah, the negative things definitely aren't good, but like as a ramper, I don't want to blast a ball into the hit the wrong ball, so I got to be very careful to aim like precisely. So it's good to know what not to do at the same time a little bit.
I know one thing that I like to do is if that negative thought does come into my mind, I do the rule of 3. So if one negative thought comes in, I tell myself 3 positive thoughts, or 3, I affirm it or do a mantra 3 times of the same thing, just to get into my head so that it overpowers that one negative thought. I just wanted to put out there. So I know Jim was mentioning some books, and I'll put one into chat. This book is by an MD, and it talks about neuroplasticity, your brain, and it changing. So it's called The Brain That Changes Itself, Stories of Personal Triumph from the Frontiers of Brain Science. So it really gets down to the nitty gritty of how your brain actually scientifically works. And that was actually a book that one of my fellow athletes that I trained with that is a Paralympian suggested.
Are there any situations that have come up for anyone that they believe a mindfulness exercise could be of benefit, but you need some ideas to implement?
I sometimes think, like, after the game or as a game is coming, I get worried, and if I'm playing like someone who's like really good, then I get nervous.
So I'm going to open that to the group. Are there things that you've done? I know Jim has some stuff that he might want to bring up here, but other people as well that you've implemented to help you kind of combat that nervousness when you're against a really good player?
One thing that I try hard to keep in mind when I'm playing somebody that's really good, like that's ranked higher than me, there's nothing saying that they're going to be on the top of their game. That there's lots of things that can happen in a game of boccia. So you have to go in focused on what you can do, and not worry about who you're playing. It's important to stay. If you're nervous about something, that's perfectly fine. Nerves are a good indicator that you're excited and that you care about the game. When you're not nervous, that could mean that you're taking your opponent for granted, and that could really backfire too. I've lost to many people just because I'm ranked higher than them, and I'm not trying as hard maybe, and by the time I start trying, it's too late. So some nervousness is good, because when you're nervous, you're going to play your best, I think. You just don't want to be too nervous. You got to keep in mind that it's a game and it's supposed to be fun.
I think that brings up what Tiffany said earlier about the emotional regulation, that the nervousness, again, like you just said, it can be a good thing. It can make you play really, really well. It's when it gets too high and it crashes you that's where the problem comes in, right? Does anyone have anything in addition that they do when they're playing someone that might be ranked really high?
When I'm nervous against an opponent that's rated higher than me or whatever, I take the nerves and use them, like, to make myself play my best, like, because I get nervous and then I use it as fuel, I guess. And like, if I'm playing someone, like in any game, like Nico said, like as towards the end of a game, he gets nervous or whatever. What I do is I'll think I can win. I'll think that I'm going to win the game until it's actually over. If I lose, I lose at that point.
I know one thing as an athlete that I like to do is it's sort of like Jim said, as I said, that internal and external stimuli there's so many different things going around in the environment with a person that you never know how your opponent is doing that day mentally and physically, or even their equipment or different factors. I like to do really deep breathing when I get really nervous and just go in with a positive attitude and a goal and an obtainable goal. So maybe, like per se, I'll sort of put it over into boccia, maybe winning one end, maybe having a good first ball and focusing on that, and then moving from there and sort of focusing again on what you can control in that situation. And it's okay, as Jim said, validate that you are like nervous about it. You can talk to your coach or anybody else that you're very comfortable with, because letting them know, they may be able to help you come up with strategies in those moments and help you see what works best for you.
Jim, can I ask you a question actually?
Sure.
So like, if a ref, like if you feel the ref's made a bad call, how do you deal with it if it makes you frustrated? Like, do you have any tips?
Well, as you've probably seen, I don't have a problem telling a ref what I think, but then I just let it go. I mean, the ref's decision is the ref's decision. I'll definitely argue a call if I feel like I have a position to argue it.
Yeah.
But after that, I just let it go, because you don't want to make an enemy of the refs. That's for
No,
sure.
that's for sure.
So
it's really good as an athlete for you to advocate for yourself, especially if you think that the rules are being missed. That is something that I really respect as an athlete. And like, the referees, they're used to it. Like, they're trained to know that their calls can be questioned. And as an athlete, that's your job, that if you if you feel like something is wrong, you should be able to advocate. I think as long as you keep it in a respectful manner and tone, it's good. And as long as you're not being disrespectful, I don't think that referee is going to take it too personal at all.
Going back to Nico's question about being nervous about players that you might play, some people might not like doing this, but I do. I watch other players play and I try to pick them apart a little bit, to see what their weaknesses are and where they like to place the ball. And then I try to use that in competition. That kind of calms me down a little bit, because at least I know what they might do to some degree anyway.
Oh, sorry. I'll do the same thing. I just don't like to do it too close to the game day. Like, I'll do it before the tournament. I'll scout everyone. Then I want to have to hyper focus on what they're going to do as opposed to what I need to do.
That is true too. You don't want to do it because you can only control what you can do. But it is nice to know a little bit of what they might do.
Yeah, it's definitely
really good boccia players tend to do the same thing all the time, in my experience anyway. I don't know what it's going to be like at international levels, but they tend to, at least in Canada, they tend to do the same thing all the time. And from what I see at the Paralympics,
everyone has
announcers say anyway,
tendencies for sure.
Yeah, we're creatures of habit.
For sure. And I mean, obviously they're going to go towards what works for them, right? Like, they're going to throw the ball where they know they can get a good first ball or whatever. So,
Tiffany, could I just ask you a question again?
Sure.
So, like, I definitely can advocate for myself, like, against, like, with refs. I just sometimes get frustrated and feel I take it too far. Do you have any strategies that help with that?
Yes, he does.
Because like at the nationals,
you
you
do.
probably saw me almost rage. So
So that's, if you remember, one of the things I discussed how, like, as a coach, like me, even before I think or react, and I do this even in my day-to-day, because I'm also a person, Josh, that is very easy for me to see red. I can be very calm and collected, but in certain situations, like, you have those hard lines and boundaries. And that's when I hard stop. I tell myself, stop. And I usually take about 3 to 10 breaths. It really depends on how upset I'm am in the situation. And then I think, because that's one thing that it's okay to do. It's okay to stop and think before you answer in anything, because then you're thinking from a rational perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes that can be a little hard in the moment because the clock's running and stuff. So if it's down to a time crunch, it's getting yourself back down as much as you can, that breathing, and focusing on it. So really focusing on like where your breath is coming from in that. So it sort of distracts you from the situation in front of you and puts you back into your body so that you can feel if you're still heightened or if you're okay to continue the conversation. And with experience, if the more you get experience with it, the better you will become with it. It's one of those things. It's just like anything else. It takes practice to do it. I think like in a situation like that as well is not approaching it with conflict. So knowing that a referee, a coach, any other person that is on your team or with like that is involved in an event, they're humans too. We all make mistakes. Yeah. So like, giving them a little bit of compassion just that, they may not have seen certain things. Like at nationals, I made a big one. The score clock was wrong, like, on an end, which was not mentally good for the athletes playing. And I missed it because I was so overwhelmed by the experience. But it's something that I learned from, and I acknowledged in the moment. I acknowledged to the athletes and said, that's something I'm going to be more vigilant in the future. Even as a referee, as you're going through these things, it's sort of like a coach or even an athlete. Like, you start at a recreational level or like, a provincial level, and you're moving up. By the time they get to a national level, like that's when their decisions can actually affect an athlete. So like, they can get anxiety in that as well, just like an athlete would, because they're having to do like, make decisions that could affect your rankings and stuff. I know my husband, I'm trying to get him to go into reffing, and that's one of his biggest fears is, what if I make a big mistake? And it's okay to make mistakes, as I said.
This seems like a good moment to wrap up the conversation, so I'm going to pass it to Tiffany for any final remarks.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and joining me today for the discussion. I just wanted to put out there, Jules, that I'm approachable. If anybody has any questions, like, of course, I'm not a trained medical professional in this field, but I do have a lot of training, just as I said, from being a child and youth worker, working in the mental health sector, and then my personal stuff of actually being very involved in practicing mindfulness and meditation. So at any point in time, if you have any questions, you want to, like, you're having difficulty figuring out like certain strategies or whatnot, or different types of things that may help you. Because as I said, I tried laughing yoga. It did not work for me, but I had to like try some other stuff. So I'm always open for that. And hopefully everybody learned something new today. And hopefully you'll be able to start practicing what mindfulness techniques work for you and start to see what you may be able to integrate into your day-to-day life. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Take care, everyone.
OCPSA would like to thank Tiffany Gaudette for leading this conversation. We'd also like to thank all the athletes and coaches that participated in the discussion. If you have a topic that you would like to discuss on Worth the Effort, let us know by commenting on this video or messaging OCPSA.